Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning and welcome to Live Natural, Live Well. This is your host, Heather Lounsbury. Thanks so much for joining me today. I know I've been off the air for about a year, and I'm really excited to have my first guest be one of my heroes, my environmental heroes, Rachelle Carson Begley. I'll be bringing her on in just a second, but a few logistics first. If you want to call in with any questions, the number is 347-884-9533. That's 347-884-9533. And just to let all of you know, if it's your first time listening, that any health topics that we bring up today, it's definitely things that I can help you with. If you ever wanted to schedule a consultation with me, I do phone consults for people who live outside of LA. Definitely go to my website for more information, livenaturallivewell.com, and sign up for my newsletter. So let me go ahead and bring Rachelle on the line. Good morning.
Hello. Hi, Heather. What a nice introduction.
Oh. Thank you. Well, I'm glad you could do this. I know you're a very busy woman, so I appreciate you taking the time.
Well, I think it's an important thing to talk about, so I'm really pleased that you hold me in that esteem. So, thanks.
Oh, good.
And I was just looking at your site, and I am so impressed with all of the green tips that you have. I learned some things. I learned that MAC will take back their old packaging and recycle it.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
I taught Rachelle Carson Begley something. That's awesome.
Yes, a couple of good tips there that I was like, oh, that's really great.
That's
very,
good.
very pleased. I'm happy to hear that the companies are actually taking their. It makes sense, doesn't it? Makes sense.
Yes.
That they would take them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of incredible with like supplements that I get delivered. I get these packages that are 5 times the size of what I've ordered.
Exactly.
Yes, and some of them refuse to use the peanuts that are eco-friendly. They still use plastic, so it can be frustrating. But do what we can.
I know.
So for my listeners who might not know who you are, if you want to give a little introduction about how you got to where you are today and what you're up to environmentally.
Sure. Well, just for real starters, I was named after Rachelle Carson, the environmental author of Silent Spring. My father was a big fan of hers, and which is quite ironic because he was a Republican from the South who had really very little to do environment. I mean, he was an environmentalist, but he wasn't what we think of. We don't think when we think of Ed. Maybe they were quite opposite, but yet quite similar. And so he named me after Rachelle Carson. So I came into the world with that legacy and then didn't think about it again. Well, I mean, I was always concerned. It was the 70s. We were watching, Don't Pollute and all the campaigns and the Chattahoochee River turning an odd shade of blue, which is, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. So, our nature was definitely changing, not for the better. And so I was concerned, but I had a lot of other things I was doing. And then a lot of other concerns, too, and children and women's issues and all those. And then cut to early 90s. Well, early 90s I moved to Canada. I moved to Toronto, where I first was introduced to the concept of recycling. I mean, I was just like,
wow.
What? What are these bins? What are they doing? I thought, oh God, what a waste of time, But I, that's the whole country was behind it, so you did it. And then came back from Canada in '93 and got reconnected to Ed, who I knew, but I had volunteered for a friend. I'd gone down the river, Kern River, with an organization in California called Friends of the River, which did a lot of cleanup for the rivers in California, and I was very impressed with the organization and wanted to give back, and I showed up at their fundraiser, and Ed happened to be the MC. So that was 93, and sort of we've been together ever since.
Wow, it was meant to
I
be.
know, isn't that wild? That's sort of how we and that's hence the beginning of the education of Rachelle, through through trial and error and hard knocks. But Ed at that time was, even if you can believe it, more fanatical about not getting in gas-powered vehicles, only riding his bike and taking electric. I mean, he was so extreme. I'm like, this is just, I don't know. I was hanging in one day at a time. It was like really, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm committed, but this guy really needs to be committed, And but he has hence lightened up a little bit in that, now what happened was the technology caught up to him and, gave us options for better electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles and things like that. And, David Suzuki, an incredible environmentalist in Canada, got a hold of him and said, Ed, we need you to be flying. I know you don't want to fly, but we need you to fly to tell the message, to talk, to carry the message. So because of that, he's decided he was able to get back on airplanes and not obviously for any kind of luxury travel, but to go from one place to another. But like every once in a while, we can combine the two and get a vacation out of it.
Oh, that's good. I was going to say, do you ever travel like to an exotic island and just relax on the beach, or does that
No, it has to be. We did go to Tahiti, but we went to Tahiti because we were looking at this innovation that had this guy Richard Bailey owns the Intercontinentals in Bora Bora in Tahiti. He has this this deep water ocean cooling system on his Intercontinental resort in Bora Bora. So we went to see that. It has to be connected to education, and also Marlon Brando's island now was being the groundbreaking for a new eco resort. So we did go through that.
I didn't know that.
Yes, and that's probably coming up on completion very shortly. But we always have to connect it to very rarely is it just for pleasure itself. I think he's a Puritan. I'm not sure, but
and you stuck it out. That's great.
Yes, I have.
And what would you say was the one thing that you thought you would never change or give up that you've done, like when you first started dating him, and now it's just normal every day?
Geez, that is a really hard one. Probably I can't even say, that there are little things that my tastes have changed, let's put it that way. I thought that, Mercedes and BMWs and all those big fancy cars, which are still beautiful to get in, and they're beautiful machines, but when I see them in a different way now, unless they're a hybrid machine, unless they're a hybrid engine, which they are starting to do, I just see that slowly occurred. Like it wasn't like I wanted one. I mean, as a matter of fact, I got my first Prius in 2001, and and this is how it happened. I was about to buy a new car. I just had a baby. I was going to get a Volvo because I knew those were safe cars, and I had a baby. And Ed said, well, if you get the new Prius, I'll buy it. If you get the Volvo, you'll buy it. So I decided that he could buy my car, and I got the Prius. But out of that, I've changed my taste. I really find those little houses on wheels called SUVs abhorrent to me. I just don't. I mean, I understand if you're lugging big materials or furniture and stuff. I mean, or you have 20 kids. You have to question why you have 20 kids, but maybe you've adopted. I don't know. There's a reason, But for the average consumer, one person in one of it just doesn't make sense. So that I didn't think that would ever change.
Right.
My perception, what I perceive luxury and all of that, that has just changed.
Yeah. I think that's hopefully as we get older, those kind of things become less important, and quality of life, like true quality of life,
right,
becomes important.
Yeah, the ramifications of things become in sort of a split second. You see, oh, well, that would be nice, but what's the cost? What's the true cost of that? You know, it might cost $7.99, but what does it really cost in the world market? I mean, who worked for 50 cents for the day to produce that product for you? I mean, and is it really worth wearing? Because it ain't going to last. For one thing, it's cheap, and it's an emotional cost that are you willing to pay? Nah. So, you know, that the time frame for which those decisions they can be made in a split second now versus what I used to have to ponder or not think of at all. And I'm far from perfect, trust me.
Well, we're all a work in progress.
Right.
At least hopefully.
Exactly.
I know we wanted to mostly focus on the health consequences of the environment. Is there one specific issue that you're most passionate about in that regard?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess because I'm of an age where a lot of people are passing from cancer. And my brother-in-law just died a year ago from bladder cancer, and, you know, they can directly relate bladder cancer and toxicity, especially in men, because the bladder, you know, especially if you've smoked, which he had smoked many, many years prior but had quit, but he worked in a foundry, worked in a steel mill. He was in the computer business, so he didn't actually work in the floor with the metals, but he was surrounded by toxins, airborne toxins and all of that. So who's to say? We don't know. You know, I do know a lot of people, friends of mine have gotten cancer. I just went to 2 funerals in 2 weeks. Deborah Raffin, wonderful actress, died of leukemia from her breast cancer. The treatment actually gave her that. But and then, you know, Larry Hagman, who died of another whatever he died of. You know, he was sort of a walking miracle to begin with. But, you know, none of us know why in which we get these cancers. But if there's anything we can do to combat it or to prohibit it, then why not? You know.
Yes.
And
exactly.
Seems to me the first line of defense is to mitigate as much exposure as possible.
Yes, and I'll give some statistics out there for people who might not know this, but now 1 in 2 men get cancer and 1 in 3 women.
Wow!
And I think
holy crap.
The numbers are. Excuse me, I don't know why I have a frog in my throat this morning. Hold on.
Mhm. Well, that is quite.
The numbers are scary. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the food that we eat is most people anyway, the standard American diet is poison, and then we're exposed to toxins, and people don't even realize that, like, your furniture is toxic, your paint is toxic, your shampoo is toxic, and like all those things, those things you can change for the most part. I mean, obviously air pollution, we can do our part to reduce it and get involved politically. But those numbers are pretty astounding.
Staggering. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sorry to hear about all of your loss.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure I'm in good company. You know, I'm sure it's pretty common these days. And you get to an age, obviously, because they've been exposed to toxins longer.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. And so, what would you recommend to my listeners? Some things they can do to avoid some of these toxins, or
I mean, always I have to say the first thing is go into your kitchen, into your bathroom, look under your cabinet, under your sink, and get rid of all the the very highly toxic cleaning products. Does it really have to be the whitest white? I mean. And, every once in a while, I guess there is a need for, living through modern chemistry. But for the daily use, there are many things. There are many wonderful products on the market. We actually have one, but, Begley's Earth Friendly. Yeah, Begley's earth-friendly products, and they are. I know for a fact how stringent the certification was on getting those made because they had to meet certain criteria for Whole Foods and yada, yada and all of that. So they're cleaner than the majority of products on the market, and so that, you know, for one thing, you know, if you're going to clean with something and it hurts your throat, it probably isn't a good thing, or it's you know, I mean, I've used some of those products and had the taste on my tongue for the day. That is a very good sign. That sign, that tongue is telling you, warning, this is not good for you.
Yes.
It's an instantaneous response. So that is one thing. The cleaning products, those are easy. There's good alternatives now. You're not sacrificing anything. And then, you know, our bodies, obviously, as you know, the skin is the biggest organ on the body and what we choose to put on it. The cosmetic industry for women is one of the dirtiest industries out there. It's like, oh, byproduct, petroleum, what can we do with it? Well, it makes for a good lotion. You know, we'll put it in women's products. It's a good stabilizer. It's cheap. And this is the operative word. It's cheap. Cheap, cheap, cheap. Well, it ain't cheap because you're going to be paying in healthcare costs later. But it's all of those. It's not just one thing. It's the combination, as you know, of all these, the trifecta effect of all the stuff. And then you add stress to it. You know, you have all of that. You have the physical toxins that you're exposed to, and then you get stressed out. Yeah. Because it's mind body.
It's definitely key to find, and I'll be writing some articles, posting some articles in the next few weeks about how to deal with stress naturally. But definitely stress is a key factor. And I wanted to add to that, how you said the petroleum is in a lot of beauty products.
Yeah.
There's the company Lush that they are plastic free, but they still use petroleum in some of their products, which I thought was really, really odd that they're trying to avoid using petroleum.
They're a big company, and unfortunately, I don't know if they're still owned by they were a Canadian company. I remember when I first found them up in Toronto. I don't know if they were bought out. Who's to say, you know? That's an interesting thing, is to find out the origin of these companies. You know, Aveda, bought out by I think it's Estee Lauder or L'Oreal, one of those. You know, used to be a small mom and pop, started out in Minnesota, natural ingredients, everything like that. Now they just say they're natural.
So
and they make them, you know, it's called greenwashing. You know, and there's some products that are better than others. Yes, listen, I'm all for supporting Estee Lauder and L'Oreal and becoming more sustainable, more green, more healthy. So I want to support them in doing that because they're here to stay. You know, they're these big infrastructures that we're not going to. It would be stupid to have them fold. You know, people have jobs with them and.
Yes.
You know,
and also cruelty free, because a lot of companies that are using toxic products are still testing on animals. So that's
it's just amazing in this day and age that still exists. Yeah.
So what are your favorite all natural beauty products?
There's so many, and they usually are smaller. You know, I have to say, John Paul DeJoria, Paul Mitchell. They're doing a lot. They do a lot for a big company. Now, they still have some ingredients, I would imagine, or they have certain lines and they have, you know, their traditional formulas. But what they do in terms of giving back and then they have more natural product lines. So John Paul, I'm always in favor of Paul Mitchell products because of their mission statement and their integrity. There's a couple of it's hard to find hair care products that are more natural. There is one I just found out of Northern California, and it's called Inner Sense. I really like this. It's very natural. They use the Temuna oil from Asia, which is, you know, this very great healing oil that they used for centuries for sunburns and all kinds of, you know, skin problems. and they're using a lot of that in their product, and it's called Inner, INNERSENS, Inner Sense, SENSE. And I found them at a Green Expo. I mean, that's where you have to, because they're, usually started by some person that has an interest and has a passion, and and they put all their life savings in it. But the good news about these products that I've found is that I like them. They don't compromise my hair. They don't make it too flat. They work, and that's what you want, is something that does that does what it's claiming to do. It has all its beauty properties. It works, and it doesn't hurt anything in the process. So that's the hair care. And there's a great company. There's a woman, her name is Monica Hall, and Monica Hall Spa, and she's got a whole line of really wonderful skincare. She was an esthetician. I believe that's her story, but she comes out of, I think it's the Midwest. But I really like her. I'm using her product now, and I really, really like it. I even heard some, and then there's a Rejuva, which is a, to make sure I get the name right, Rejuva. It's a mineral makeup. Now I know there's some controversy about minerals now. Is there not? Have you heard this?
Yes, and I haven't done enough research to find, to get all the details. So I don't want to talk about.
Right, me either. Maybe it's some of the mineral makeup, like Bare Minerals, that has some other crap in it that is not good to inhale. So we don't know if it's all mineral makeup, or is it, certain mineral makeup.
It's definitely not all. I know I'm using, some of the makeup I use is by Laranim, which is
I like them
spelled
too.
Backwards. Yes, and I know their stuff is non-toxic, vegan, cruelty-free. So, so I think it depends on the company on whether or not it's safe to use.
Right. There's a really organic line out of Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm from, called Holly Beth, and she makes it in her house. But it's a really nice product. I mean, I can't, there's an eye cream, and there's a body butter, and there's, they don't have everything in the line, but what they have, I really like. So those are just a few.
Okay, those are good suggestions. I'll have to keep those in mind next time I need to do some makeup shopping. So I know you and Ed have moved into a new house.
Well, we're building a new house.
Are you still building it? Sorry.
Yes, that's sort of been you're still building? Yes, we're still building. It's been 2.5 years. Well, a lot of it, the first part was, deciding to take down an existing house, and, which was like, no, don't do that. But the truth is it was a good thing we did, because when we opened it up, it was riddled with toxins, with really bad toxins. Like, we had to get hazmat people there to, deconstruct and put in, those had to be separated out, which normally in normal construction would just be bulldozed and put into a landfill. So the lead and all the bad stuff had to be taken out and dealt with properly and responsibly. And then the rest of the house was almost 90% was recycled. Avoided landfill. Some of the the best features went to Habitat for Humanity, which is a wonderful organization. And then some of the wood that necessarily couldn't be used here was shipped to Mexico for they which is sad, but they used it. So we did avoid a landfill, 90% of it, and that's just unheard of. So that was a lot of the time of building this house. That was the first 1.5 years, I would say. And now the building, and then you permit, and now, and getting permits for big rainwater catchment systems. Well, no one does that. So they don't, it's like you're writing new law. It's tricky. And it's time consuming. And but we put in a rainwater catchment. I live in Southern California. The rain is scarce, so it's a premium. And we've started construction, steel construction, all of the things, just really, I hope, highly technologically involved building. And wonderful William Hefner and Scott Harris, this team of architect and contractor here in Los Angeles, who took this daunting task on. I mean, they really were just, I know they roll their eyes at us, but they've stayed with us. They're not green contractor architect per se. They had an interest in learning about it and getting in. They're usually building beautiful homes in Bel Air and, really beautiful style. So I thought they had the desire, and I wanted to go. I want to show a house that looks like any other well-designed, beautifully made house in my neighborhood. It doesn't stand out like a sore thumb and look like George Jetson's, futuristic, that looks traditional, but happens to be green. I wanted to show that we can do that, and it doesn't have to, it might cost initially. We're probably, we're the prototype, so we're willing to pay a little more at this point. Ultimately, the savings is in the long run, and I know there will be savings because I have solar on my house and we use it, 95% of the time. So
that's great. Electricity, barely any electricity bill. No, very, very low water usage and electricity, and so that is amortized over many years and has paid for itself. Yeah. So I want this to be, the model, and we can do it, and we should do it. It's our responsibility to our community to put your money where your mouth is. Yeah, exactly. Well, it'll inspire others to do the same. I think once they see how gorgeous that it can be done. Yeah, and learn from us. I mean, that's the whole point. I'm documenting it. We have an onbegleystreet.com, www.onbegleystreet.com, which is the beginning of our site, and we are documenting it. And we are doing a show about it online. And PBS is now interested in a series, so we'll see how that goes. Okay. Yeah. Well, I hope they pick it up. And we only have, I know it's gone by so fast, but we only have a couple minutes. So if there's any last-minute words of wisdom that you have for my listeners before we say goodbye. I just think, this is how I started. You just do what you can do. Just make small changes. Don't try to, as Ed always says, don't try to climb Mount Everest in a day. You just make the small changes. You just get the information. One is by listening to people like you, and then go in your medicine cabinet and underneath and just take out a few products. So you can't take them all out at once. Start substituting better products. That's the real simple. Change a light bulb. The very, very, like you point out in your on your wonderful website. Look on websites like yours to get the information, to learn something new. But just do something. Stop being the ostrich with your head in the sand. Yes. This is real, folks. and the downside of not doing something is dire. Yeah. Well, we saw that with Hurricane Sandy. That it's happening. People who've been wanting to ignore it or pretend it's going to be in, down the road. If you don't believe in global warming, believe in cancer. Believe in something. That's what I always say. Don't you want clean water for your children? That's even if for some reason you don't believe in science. Right. I don't say it that way, of course, to people. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So thanks so much for coming on today. And I guess, I'd love to have you on again, maybe once you have the show on PBS. Sure. And we can talk about that and promote it. And that would be really super. Appreciate you taking the time. Yeah, Heather. Thank you for doing what you're doing. I really appreciate it, too. Thanks, Rachelle. You take care. All right. Take care. Okay. Bye. Bye-bye. Okay, bye. So thanks, Rachelle Carson Begley, for coming on today. And if you guys have any questions for me, please feel free to email me at info@livenaturallivewell.com. Definitely go to my website, livenaturallivewell.com, for the simple green tips. It's something that everyone can do. Nothing too overwhelming on there, so definitely take a look if you have any questions. And if you want some help with prevention, or if you are going through cancer treatment right now, I can definitely help you with that. So please contact my office to set up a consultation. And next week I'm having two guests. I'm doing two different shows next week, Tuesday and Wednesday. So, I'm running out of time. So just go ahead to my website to see who those are. Take care and have a great day.